Hi everyone, Danny here, and welcome to Spenelli Speaks and another monthly wrap up. We're going to discuss what I read in the month of April, as well as sharing a couple of books that I'm hoping to get read in May. So stay tuned to the end of the video for that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell and comment below if you've read any of these books or if you have anything to share. Also, I always love a good subscriber suggestion. So if you have any recommendations of books that I might like, please put those down below. Now, for the books that I read in April, I did read 10 books. However, I am only going to share 7 of those with you. If you want to see all of the books that I've read, please feel free to follow me on Goodreads. I put everything on Goodreads and I'm pretty up to date on those. I put them in as I am reading. So the first book that I finished in April is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. I'm trying really hard to understand the big deal about Brandon Sanderson. I've had some hits and misses. For Mistborn, I did give it 4 stars. This follows a young woman who finds out there's a little bit more to her than she thinks. There is a magic system in this story, revolves around metals. So that is really interesting. There's like 11 metals or 10 metals that they discuss in here, very distinctly 10, but then there's like the 11th metal and it's, secretive and all that. It is another rebellion story. So the young lady finds herself in this like troop of men who are all, some of them have different affinities with the metals. Not everyone can make all of the metals work, only a few Mistborn can. And they are part of a rebellion to take over the final empire, which is led by this god of a man. And you find out a little bit more about his story. You find out a little bit more about the stories of all of the people in this kind of mishmash of a troop. And it's very well written. There's a lot of interweaving of storylines. I loved the relationships that were built within the cast of characters, and they are all really unique in what they offered. And it was nice to get to know all of them. Funny little thing, I did not realize that this was part of a series. Go ahead, laugh. I know you're laughing. Have your moment. Very good. Okay. So when I was recommended this book, which I have been recommended this book by a couple of people, I thought it was a standalone. I thought that's why they were recommending it to me, because I kept saying like, oh, I want to read Brandon Sanderson, but I don't know where to start. And they're like, oh, that's easy. Just grab Mistborn. As if it would be easy. Just read that one book and you'll get a little bit of a taste of Brandon Sanderson. They are so funny. It's like a 12-book series. And there's like, it's not even like all like linear. There's like 3 books that are the Mistborn trilogy, and then there's like prequel books, and then there's like years later books, like 400 years later books. Okay, I'm not going to be doing any of that. No, 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 no. I did enjoy this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's good. It's well written. I liked the characters. I didn't see a lot wrong with it, but I'm not reading 12. So I will think about reading the main 3, and we'll stick with that. So 4 stars for Mistborn. I also read the 3rd book in the Lightfall graphic novel series. So the 3rd one is called The Dark Times. If you recall from my previous wrap-ups, this follows Bee and Cad. Bee being a human and Cad being a Guldurian, kind of looks like a fish, but a humanoid warrior kind of fish. And they are looking to help figure out what's going on with the light sources, the suns. And you find there's a lot more to the story. There's a lot of ancient folklore that is actually real, and there are players' legends that are coming to life, so to speak, to help in this journey. And I did give it 3 stars. However, I'm going to stand by what I've said about the previous ones. I just feel like it is, there's something missing with these graphic novels. The story feels very elongated. There's a lot of pages that just don't have any words, so you have to kind of surmise what's happening by just the illustrations, which is great. The illustrations are great, but they're also bare, and it's kind of like, I don't need a full page to show me that they got from point A to point B. Can we just move on and just get to the story and get to what they're trying to do and understand why? And so they're a little bit lackluster, I gotta tell you. There is a fourth. I'm not sure how many this is meant to be completely, but there is a fourth coming out. I don't know if that'll be this year. Am I rushing to read it? Probably not. Will I read it? Maybe. But all in all, 3 stars. So that's where I stand on those graphic novels. I listened as an audiobook to Doria Russell's The Sparrow. This was a subscriber recommendation. I believe it was Pamela. Pamela, did you recommend this? I believe you did. I gave it 3 stars, and I'll tell you why. First, I had no idea what this book was about. When I saw the cover on my Libby app where I had originally requested it, I thought it was a historical fiction. I don't read the backs of books. I don't read the summaries for books because I just dive in blind so I can appreciate the book as it is. Boy, was I so completely surprised and confused by what I was reading. So if you have not read The Sparrow, this book came out in the early 2000s, I believe, and it is a sci-fi religious book. So it follows 2 timelines that kind of then intersect, but in the beginning it's like 2017 to 19 where everything like happens, and then we go forward in time to 2060. So already, like, the main timeline, I'm like, that's not what we see here today, because we just in real life got out of there, but 'tis neither here nor there. Anywho, we follow a Jesuit priest who is a linguist and ends up with a very odd assortment of people who are his very closest friends. There's like an astrologer. It's like an astrophysicist, a archaeologist, a whole bunch of people who are very, very smart and know lots of things. And they somehow intercept a frequency from outer space that is music. And they decide that they are going to basically go into space and meet this alien civilization. Because if they make music, they are intelligent, right? And they need to go out and meet them and find out more. God has given them this gift, and they are going to go and find them. And it is a intense and crazy story. The entire time I was reading this story, I was like, what am I reading? What is happening? I had the pleasure of reading this as a buddy read with Sarah. She used to have a booktube channel. I will link her crafting channel as she still uploads there, so that you can check that out if you so wish. But we were both, so this was a reread for her. And as she explained in her first read of this book, she was just like blown away, and it was just something that was really impactful for her. And in her second read, she still very much enjoyed the read, and she is a scientist in the real world. Past all reading and crafting, she is very much scientist. So a lot of this she was very much like into, and for me as like someone who is not into science, and so we had a very interesting conversation. The book as a whole really has the reader kind of given the opportunity to think about religion and spiritualism and faith, and just how all of that intersects into one's life, and how it compels you towards others. And I did not like how the ending, what happened in the end, I did not like it. It's one of my least favorite things that happens in books. If I would have to say it's the worst thing that happens in books, I don't like that stuff. So there's that. Probably why I gave it a lesser score. But this book was mental. I don't even know how to explain it properly. It shook me. So it's definitely a book that makes you think, and like you'll think about it for quite a few days afterward. I actually had to take 2 days before I could even give my final thoughts with Sarah. And thankfully, we've read books together before, so we know each other's style. We don't hold anything back. So it was a great discussion. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know about this book. So I did give it 3 stars. It is part of a duology. So there is a second book that you can check out. I will not be continuing on that path. So that's there for anyone else who would like to read it. I did read a few ebooks from my Kindle Unlimited, and they weren't the best, but I'm going to share them with you today. So the first is Death of a Fairytale by Emily Fluke. I gave this a whopping 1 star. I was not impressed. So this is a retelling, and it is a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. And this follows the main character, who is a journalist, and the very first opening scene, she's giving birth to her child. And then the rest of the book is literally half her worrying about her child eating, really expressing hate at herself because she can't breastfeed very well, and then that she's a terrible mother. Parallel with her thinking she's the greatest journalist of all time, but is also really tired and needs to keep going. She's literally in morgues and murder scenes with a baby strapped to her waist, and as a mother, I'm like, nope, I'm sorry. Like, I get wanting to showcase a woman having a child and being able to join the workforce again, but that's also, for me, you're jeopardizing your child's safety by hovering over a bloody dead body. So that's just me. There were a lot of things that were very obvious in the story as well, that if she was such a great journalist, like, she should have picked up on. And again, she kept saying how great she was, and she wasn't picking up on very obvious clues. So, yeah, overall, did not appreciate this book and will not be continuing on in the series. I think there's like 6 more. So, 1 star for that. Another fairy tale retelling is Autopsy of a Fairytale by Nicole Scarano. 2 stars. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and the characters that we see in this book will carry over into the rest of the books. But this particular book is mostly all Beauty and the Beast retelling. And it follows Belle, of course, because her name's Belle, Isabel Belle, who is a detective from New York. She has a very close call to death in New York, gets attacked by a person who all she can remember is the teeth, the teeth, the teeth, the teeth, the teeth. We hear this over and over again. She has very vivid nightmares throughout the whole book, and we just always hear about the teeth. Anywho, Anne moves to a small town to become a detective there to have an easier time so that she can kind of recoup. And a slew of really unique murders happen. And so her and her partner are trying to figure out who done it. There is this very, how to describe this person? The author does it in a way where it's like sin and godlike in the same sentence, of a man, obviously the beast, who they kind of have their eyes on throughout the investigation. When it comes time to reveal, the Agatha Christie of reveals, where all the players are in the room and you start to do it, the reason of, or why everything happened the way it did, or who done it, is such a cop-out, because it's like at 83%, because this is when it happens, at 83%, you completely do this whole 180 of what you've done in the rest of the book. And it's a cop out of a reason. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's ridiculous. Um, it's supposed to be like a plot twist. It's supposed to be like whatever. It's not. It's not. And at, I don't know, 12%, there's something that happens with a specific character. And at that moment, any reader who's ever read any mystery goes, that's the killer. And it doesn't matter who they are, you know that that's the killer. And it just was very frustrating because then you have to go through this whole book with nothing being explained properly at all until 83% when you're like, are you serious? That's your explanation? So it's very frustrating. I gave it 2 stars. I am going to continue on to the second one. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about my TBR. The only reason why I'm going to continue is because if they continue their reasoning, then I'll be okay because then it'll make sense. But if they like try to mess around with me again, it'll be a DNF and I will not continue on the series. So, anywho, I know that's very vague, but I hate to give spoilers. So, 2 stars to Autopsy of a Fairytale. Now, I did read for Double Booked Co. If the Spirit Moves You by Justine Picardie. This is Life and Love After Death. This book, so we just had our live discussion. If you're ever interested in anything Double Booked Co. does for their book club, we hold reading sprints every first Tuesday of the month and live discussions of our monthly book pick on the last Tuesday of every month. So we just did our live discussion, and Laura, who is my partner in crime for that, she called this a nothing burger book, meaning there's really nothing great about it. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just like whatever. And I have to agree. I gave this 3 stars, and that was a very generous 3 stars. It is a nonfiction book, so I feel really odd about being like, your book sucks, because it's nonfiction. It's your life, it's reality, it is what it is. But this follows Justine Picardie. I feel like going in, you think it's going to be a book about grief. Her sister had passed 3 years prior to the things that happen in this book, but she really like dives deep into like spiritualism. She seeks out mediums and different organizations that try different methods to reach the unliving, and it's like a merry-go-round for an entire year. So this starts in April and ends in April, and it is just her continuing to like meet with different people, spending loads of money on mediums and different seminars of people discussing how to communicate with the undead. And it's just, I'm not here to say whether you should believe in that or not believe in that. I'm not saying if it's real or unreal. I'm just saying it was a lot. Like for an entire year, she's traveling between the UK and the United States, staying for a week to go through these seminars, and it felt like a lot, and it felt like she was neglecting the living in order to try to reach her sister. Whereas throughout the book, there were many times where I felt she was connecting with her sister. Like she would have conversations with herself in her mind, and her sister would reply. Obviously, it was her replying for her sister, and she would recognize that. But at the same time, I feel like that is you connecting with your sister. I feel like in death, we hold on to the memories and the shared experiences and all the things that we have with those people, and that is your connection. And again, I'm not trying to prove right or wrong. Everyone is entitled to their own belief system. But in this, it just felt like she kept going through the same circles, and it just, nothing, she wasn't satisfied with anything. Like, I feel like she wasn't going to stop until her sister, like, appeared to her, like, face to face and, like, had a full-on discussion with her. Like, that was the only thing that was gonna, like, stop her. Like, even in the end of the book, there's no real closure. I don't know. It was just really, it wasn't what I expected, but it also really wasn't very enlightening, or I don't know, it wasn't very satisfying. So we did finish that. I will be gifting that to my mother in case she's interested. She likes nonfiction stuff, so she can have it. The last book that I have been actually reading since February, on and off. It's a recommendation from one of probably two of my brothers. But if you recall, I've been trying to read this book, this massive, over 700-page book by Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind. And I finally finished it last night. So like right at the skin of my teeth, I was able to finish this book. I am giving it 4 stars. I think it's excellently written. It really is. And a very interesting story. It has so many different things happening. If you're not familiar, this book follows Kvothe, who is a arcanist, which is someone who can kind of do magic, but it's through it's very like through physics and chemistry, and it's called sympathy in this book, but basically the ability to manipulate the world around you in a certain sense, I guess. But there's also the naming of things, and that has power as well. And he is hiding out essentially in an inn as an innkeeper with his protege, I guess. And a chronicler comes who is a scribe who wants to take down his story, knows who he is. And so they sit down and he begins his story. So this book, in the interludes, which is where he's sitting down at the inn telling a story, is one day. Okay, he's in one day telling his story. And it starts when he's like 12 years old. So he begins with how he was a son of troopers who, traveled the lands and did, music and plays and all of that kind of stuff. And something very terrible happens and he ends up on his own way. He goes to university where he wants to become an arcanist, which is, again, someone who can wield this sympathy magic. And in the meantime, in like the real world where the present time is happening, there are these like demons coming to light, and so we're going to face those. Now, again, very interesting. We see how he falls on hard times and how he has to take care of himself and how he gets himself into the university and how he gets himself through the university. He finds a little bit of love. But again, in that timeline, he's still only like 15 or 16 years old. And in the present time, he's this like 30-some-year-old. So we've got a lot of ground to cover, which will happen, I'm assuming, in the second book. Now, this is supposed to be a trilogy, but as you know, if you follow this author, there is the second book, and then the third book has not yet been released, but it has been, 11 years since the second book was released. So needless to say, I will not be continuing on to the second book at this time. When that third book gets its publication date and it's coming out, then I will go on to the second book, which I believe is called like The Wise Man's something. I probably have it here. I won't read that until I know that the third book is coming out. Like I said, I gave this one 4 stars. It was a brilliant read, well worth it. I was not able to read the physical book. I had to use one of my Audible credits and listen to it while I looked at the words, because I was just not able to stay. I couldn't keep my attention because it was just so big and the words are so small. So I did listen to audio while reading. That helped immensely. So I was able to finally finish it. So yeah, 4 stars. So those are the 7 books that I was hoping to discuss with you for April. It looks like across the board, no 5 stars, but a few 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 star, and 1 star. That kind of stinks. But for the month of May, if you are interested in joining Double Booked Co., we are reading Susan Branch's A Fine Romance, which is falling in love with the English countryside. This is an amazing book. It's all like handwritten with lots and lots of illustration. Very much looking forward to this. So if you're interested in joining Double Booked Co. In the month of May, that is our book club book. And this upcoming Tuesday will be reading sprints where some of us will be starting that. Again, if you ever want to join Double Booked Co., we are the first Tuesday of every month and the last Tuesday of every month, reading sprints and then live discussion. I also would like to read this Sarah Beth Durst, The Spellshop. I had gotten this from my library last month and then just never got to it. I'm very surprised. I don't think I've ever seen a library edition that had sprayed edges, so that was kind of cool. I don't know what this is about, but I loved the cover, so I'm going to go ahead and read that in the month of May. I'm also going to try that second book in that Nicole Scarano, the fairy tale. The second one is called Forensics of a Fairy Tale, and this one is a retelling of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And then I found on KU that book. It's called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I saw that it was available, and I was like, that's a very unusual title. So I'm going to try that one as well. So just a few books that I have on the docket for May. I'm sure I will read many more. So stay tuned for that. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of those books, if you have anything to say, and if you have any recommendations. Until next time, I hope you are reading something fantastic, taking care, staying safe, and as always, you know how it goes. Happy reading. Bye.